Hi, Inside Tracker fans. My name is Jason. I run the social media here at Inside Tracker, and I am with Diana.
Hi, guys.
A registered dietitian. If you pay attention to our social feeds, and we appreciate that you do, we try to provide as much information as we can to give our customers the best information possible to make the decisions that they need to reach their goals. And we recently were talking about cooking oils on social media, and it raised quite a debate.
Yep.
Would that be a fair word?
That's definitely fair.
We want to take an opportunity to cut through the noise, the sound bites, and bring to our audience a little bit of cooking oil 101, specifically olive oil versus coconut oil, and which one you should probably cook with depending on your goals.
Yep, exactly.
So we kind of broke it down to the big basic distinguishing points here. And Diana, being a registered dietitian, we're hoping you can give us, the facts about what these are,
Yeah,
and then talk about how that works for different people. Saturated fat, that's the name we're going to drop.
Yeah.
That's the scary, the scary fat, right?
Yep.
Could you explain that a little bit to everybody?
Yeah, sure. So saturated fat, as you can see here, there's quite a difference in olive oil versus coconut oil. Olive oil is only going to have 2 grams of saturated fat, and the rest is going to be unsaturated fat. So unsaturated fat are more linked to better cholesterol levels, better heart health, whereas unsaturated fat, the opposite happens,
Okay.
right? So it tends to be linked to higher levels of cholesterol, especially bad cholesterol, your LDL cholesterol, and increased levels of this cholesterol, bad cholesterol, can increase your risk of heart disease, okay? So as you can see here, coconut oil does have significantly more.
It's about 5 times more.
Yeah, it's a lot more.
Yeah.
And just to give you a little perspective, so the American Heart Association, they recommend that we shouldn't really pass 5 to 6% of our calories, total calories, from saturated fat. So if you eat around 2,000 calories a day, that comes out to about 13 grams of fat. So if you look at these statistics, this is for 1 tablespoon. So with just 1 tablespoon of coconut oil, you're at 12 grams of saturated fat. So you're almost at that kind of maximum allotment that you're given. So that's really important to keep in mind when you are considering putting coconut oil in your coffee or using coconut oil to cook with it.
So if the biomarker you're watching is your cholesterol,
yeah,
on saturated fat alone, you have to be very wary with coconut oil.
You should. It's something you really should keep in mind and pay attention to. If you do have high cholesterol levels, or maybe you're predisposed to have high cholesterol levels, this is something you should be aware of.
So we're going to transition now. Cooking oils are about cooking.
Yes.
You cook with fire. When you have fire, you have smoke.
Yes.
No thread about coconut oil or olive oil in particular is complete without somebody bringing up smoke points.
Smoke points.
Okay.
Yep.
Could you explain to somebody what that is and the
Of
difference?
course, yes. So a smoke point is basically a temperature at which an oil or fat starts to break down, starts to burn, right? So it starts to smoke. And the reason why it's become very popular, talked about lately, is because there can be some health effects related to the different smoke points. So once a fat or an oil starts to break down, it can release some toxic compounds and something called free radicals that can, when consumed, can cause some inflammation in your body. So yes, olive oil, as you can see here, is going to have a lower smoke point, meaning it's going to reach that breaking point, that burning point, faster than coconut oil, which has a much higher smoke point.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
So depending on what you're cooking, it might come into account, it might not come.
Right. So if you need to cook something at a high heat, olive oil is probably not going to be the best option because it's going to break down. You're going to reach 320 quicker and probably surpass it with high heat vegetables or whatever cooking that you need to do. So in the context of cooking, I think, using olive oil is fine if you're going to use it at a low heat, or olive oil is a great option for adding to salads, to adding afterwards. So after you cook your vegetables, then you can add the olive oil as a salad dressing. There's really great properties to olive oil. just it does not have that high smoke point that coconut oil does.
That's interesting. Now, another thing that coconut oil, might or might not have that everyone wants to talk about is MCTs.
Yes, MCTs.
Okay. There's a big word attached with that. There's a lot of science attached to MCTs. Everybody name drops it, but would you kind of give us a little more information on what it really is?
Sure. So MCTs stand for medium chain triglycerides. So it's basically it describes a length of triglycerides, which are a type of fat, right? So this is where it gets interesting. So I have a little sheet here, and I figured this would be a little easier to explain. So as you can see here, coconut oil has 3 medium chain triglycerides: lauric, caprylic, and capric. So it has 2 C's and an L. Coconut oil is primarily lauric. So it's primarily this first one, right? So it's about 47% of the medium chain triglycerides are in the form of lauric. Lauric acts just like other saturated fats. And what happens is it increases LDL cholesterol and total cholesterol. So it doesn't necessarily have favorable health benefits. Capric and caprylic, the 2 C's, on the other hand, can be used right away for energy. So if you go to a health food store, or if you're going to put something in your coffee, that a lot of people usually put MCT oils. So what health food companies have done is extracted the 2 C's, the ones that can be used for energy, and they put them into MCT oils. So I bet you if you go to any like health food store and you grab a bottle of MCT oils, you're going to see the 2 C's. Okay. You're going to see lauric is not involved, right? Because lauric doesn't have the same effect as these other 2. So it's really important when we are talking about MCTs that you need to differentiate between coconut oil and MCT oils, because there is a difference and there can be differences, a different impact on your health.
So you could just use olive oil and then add some MCT oils into your diet, and you're kind of getting...
Yeah, depending on what your goals are. Right. If you're a person who does want to put something in their coffee, I recommend MCTs over coconut oil.
Absolutely. And there's nothing here is categorical about you can have both in your diet. You can go heavier on one, and it depends on your goals.
Exactly. And I think it's also really important to look at your diet as a whole, right? So if you're someone who's eating a lot of saturated fats, like in other forms, meat, dairy, then maybe you should keep the coconut oil to a minimum. It's important to kind of look at all aspects. If you don't eat any dairy or milk or meat, and you don't really have a lot of sources of saturated fat in your diet, then you know what? Maybe a little coconut oil is going to be okay for you. And I think one last thing, it is really important to know what your cholesterol levels are, because this is going to play a role. It's going to impact it. So it's important to have that knowledge.
Right. A lot of people are talking about their choices without the context of what their levels are and what their overall diet is. And so I appreciate, Diana, you breaking that down.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Insight Tracker is here to help you know your levels. The power's in the knowledge there, and then knowing how to cut through the noise and make the effective changes that are a little bit more nuanced than being team coconut oil or just team olive oil.
Right, exactly.
To make the decisions to reach your goals. And thank you for explaining that to us today.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
And Insight Tracker fans, thank you very much. Please leave any questions you have in the comments. We'll be sure to reply, and stay tuned for more broadcasts where we help to cut through the noise and help you be your healthiest self.